She said it like she was ordering coffee. No touching today. No anger. No hesitation. Just a casual dismissal that landed like a brick. I looked at her, standing there by the kitchen counter, her hair pulled into that effortless bun she used to wear when she was mine, or when I thought she was. The morning light slid across her face, soft and cold, like she'd been practicing this line in her head all night. For a second, I laughed, thinking it was one of her moods. She had them sometimes, those quiet days when she wanted space. But something about the way she said it told me this wasn't a mood. It was a message. I wanted to ask why. But the air between us already knew. We hadn't touched in days. Weeks, maybe. Our kisses had turned into polite acknowledgments. Our conversations into logistical briefings. And somewhere between her late-night work calls and her new obsession with privacy, I realized I'd become background noise in my own marriage. So I nodded, poured my coffee, and said nothing. She scrolled through her phone as if she hadn't just sliced through the last thread holding us together. I could hear the faint ping of a message. Her lips twitched. Not a smile, not quite. Just that micro-expression people get when something they want finally arrives. I didn't ask who it was. I didn't need to. That night, I slept on the couch. She didn't ask why. In the morning, I left early for work. She didn't notice that either. But habits die slower than love. So, out of reflex, I texted her around noon. Need anything for dinner? No reply. By 5, I'd decided to stop pretending. I walked through our front door like a stranger checking into a hotel. Quiet, detached, polite. She was in the living room, laughing softly at something on her phone. A sound that used to belong to me. I sat across from her. We need to talk. Her fingers froze. Then she sighed. Not now, Ryan. Please. I'm tired. Tired, I repeated. The word rolled off my tongue like a joke I didn't find funny. She looked up at me. Eyes dry, expression blank. Can we not do this tonight? That was when something inside me clicked. That soft, desperate need to fix things. It vanished. All the late nights, the begging for affection, the guilt that maybe I wasn't enough. It all went quiet. So I said the calmest thing I'd ever said in my life. Sure. No more us. She blinked, confused. Maybe she thought it was sarcasm. But I smiled. Just a faint, measured curve of my lips that said, I mean it. I stood, grabbed my jacket, and walked toward the door. Her voice followed, uncertain now, softer. What does that mean? It means, I said, turning just enough to meet her eyes. You don't have to pretend anymore. For the first time in months, I felt weightless. Not happy, just free. I checked into a hotel that night, a small one downtown, where no one knew my name. I sat by the window with a beer in my hand, watching the city move. Strangers everywhere. Disconnected. Alive. And it hit me. Maybe that's what I'd become in her life. A familiar stranger. I scrolled through our old photos. Her smile, my arm around her shoulders, the warmth that used to feel unbreakable. All of it now looked like evidence of a story that ended long before I noticed. The next morning, I woke up lighter. Not healed. Not yet. But aware. Aware that the version of me who waited for her approval had died somewhere between no touching today and not now, please. That day, I packed a small bag, grabbed my laptop, and started making plans. Not for us, but for me. By the third morning, she texted me. Just one line. Are you coming home tonight? No apology. No explanation. Just the assumption that I'd orbit her again, like always. I typed a reply, then deleted it. There was a time when I would have rushed back at the slightest hint of concern. But that time had passed, right along with the version of me that begged to be wanted. Instead, I sat there staring out the window of that quiet hotel room, coffee in hand, wondering how many other people had lived this same quiet ending. When love fades not with fights, but with indifference. Around noon, I went home. Not to talk, not to reconcile, just to collect what was mine. The house looked the same, but it felt smaller, colder. Her scent still lingered in the air, faint and familiar. She was sitting on the couch, her laptop open, pretending to work. You didn't reply, she said. I didn't have anything to say. Her brows pulled together. You can't just walk out and act like it's nothing. Can't I? I asked. You've been doing it for months. That shut her up. For a moment, the silence between us was so thick it felt like a third person in the room, the ghost of who we used to be. I just needed space, she said finally, her tone defensive, fragile. Yeah, I replied. You made that pretty clear. I looked around the living room, the framed photos, the little notes we'd left each other years ago, still pinned to the fridge like artifacts of a language we'd forgotten. I gathered my things quietly, a few shirts, my laptop, a couple of books. She watched me the whole time, waiting for me to break, to beg. But I didn't. As I zipped up my bag, I said, you know, the worst part wasn't you pulling away. It was me waiting for you to come back. Her lips parted like she wanted to say something, but the words never came. I didn't need to hear them anyway. I'd already heard everything in her silence weeks ago. I walked out without slamming the door. Just a quiet click. The sound of something ending peacefully. Finally. A week passed before I heard from her again. Another message. Can we talk? I didn't answer. Not because I was angry, but because there was nothing left worth rescuing. In those 7 days, I'd rediscovered things I'd forgotten. Sleep without tension. Laughter without explanation. Peace without apology. I started running again, reading again, living again. And somewhere between the long walks and the quiet evenings, I realized something simple but powerful. I didn't lose her. I released her. Because love isn't supposed to feel like waiting outside a locked door. The next time she called, I answered just once to give closure. Ryan, she said softly, I made mistakes. I don't know what happened to us. Nothing happened, I said. You stopped choosing me. I just finally noticed. Silence. Then a quiet, broken sigh. I didn't think you'd really leave. I didn't think you'd really let me. I hung up before either of us could ruin what little dignity was left. Months later, I ran into her by accident at a friend's gathering. She looked the same, polished, distant, wearing that same perfume that used to undo me. We made small talk, felt strange, polite, like two people who once shared a home but now only shared history. As I turned to leave, she said, almost under her breath, You've changed. I smiled. Yeah. You taught me how. And that was it. No dramatic farewell, no emotional plea, just quiet acceptance. When I stepped outside, the night air hit my face, cool and sharp. I felt alive. Not because I'd won anything, but because I'd stopped losing myself to someone who didn't notice I was gone. For the first time in a long while, I wasn't someone's half-loved habit. I was whole. And if I ever loved again, it would never be a love that needed reminders to touch, to see, to care. Because once someone teaches you how it feels to be invisible, you never settle for fading again.